Om Sruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Padam Shankaram Lokashankaram. So the process of de-hypnotization, that as per Vedanta, we are already hypnotized. Very nice interaction is there in one of the Swami Vivekananda's lectures. When Swami Vivekananda in the West was giving a lecture on Vedanta, he was again and again asserting that we are the Atman, we are the Brahman, and always being identified with your real nature, the Atman, the Brahman. Always try to disassociate yourself from the body-mind complex, and in turn with the projection of the entire world in the form of our feelings, our experiences of joy, happiness, sorrow. All those dualities are mere projections of this body-mind complex, its relation with the body-mind complex, which after all is false. The reality is you are the self. So everything else is unreal. And then suddenly someone from the audience stood up. And she was really very delighted, very elated to hear such a wonderful exposition of Vedanta. And then he said, it's really a very nice thing you told, Swamiji. It's a very nice way to hypnotize ourselves. It's a very nice way to hypnotize ourselves that I am the Atman, I am the Brahman, and that way we can somehow transcend the sufferings of life. That whenever the sufferings come, I use this type of hypnotization by asserting that after all, nothing touches the real you, you're the Atman, you're the Brahman. And then Swamiji immediately responded very nicely. He told, Madam, you are already hypnotized. What I am saying is to de-hypnotize you. You're already hypnotized that you're the body, you're the mind, you're the senses. I'm not hypnotizing you by saying that you're the Atman. I am de-hypnotizing you. So the process of de-hypnotization, so that I can realize my real self, that has been described in the Vivekachudamani from verses 270 to 307. We will take up, it's quite a large number of verses. In one day, it won't be possible to cover them all. We will just try to proceed as much as possible. So as we have studied in the last class, the 270th verse, the 270th verse, what it is saying, Lokanu vartanam tyaktva dehanu vartanam, shastranu vartanam tyaktva, swadhyasa apanayam kuru. So you will find in all the verses here in this section from 270 to 307, this last phrase is common. Swadhyasa apanayam kuru. Swa adhyasa, the superimposition which has dawned upon you. Swa means myself. Adhyasa, superimposition. That I am not the body-mind complex. I somehow superimpose. The self has on the self has been superimposed this idea of this individuality, of this body-mind complex. Apanayam, obliterate, get rid of it. This superimposition has come upon you, get rid of it. By how? How to get rid of it? The three things Bhagavad Pada Shankaracharya is indicating. Lokanu vartanam tyaktva. Relinquishing the observance of social formalities. Lokanu vartanam tyaktva. The social obligations. Constantly, we have a lot of social obligations. Relinquish this observance of all these social obligations. Tyaktva dehanu vartanam. So giving up all the ideas of grooming your body. As in the last class we indicated, that it doesn't mean that you shouldn't take care of your body, your health. Because after all, with the help of body, you are going to perform all your spiritual practices. So the basic health, of course, has to be taken care of. As it has been mentioned, that Sharira Madhyam Khalu Dharma Sadhana. With the help of this body, all the Dharma Sadhana, all our endeavors has to be performed with the help of this body. So we have to take care of the body to just maintain its optimum health. But nowadays we find that a huge section of the corporate world is there busy to ensnare us, that how to keep ourselves trim, fit, that our health actually should be measured in centimeters, that the beauty is to be measured in centimeters. So that's the idea, the trimming, grooming, giving too much of importance to this body, that actually has been spoken of as Dehanu Vartanam Tyaktva. So relinquishing the idea of trimming the body, grooming the body, and Shastranu Vartanam Tyaktva. There's too much engrossment with the study of scriptures. Why? That we study the scriptures to know the essence of it. That we say Ramakrishna Paramahansa. But why Paramahansa? That the idea is that this mythological swan is not the ordinary swan. There's a mythological swan, this Paramahansa, supreme swan. What is that? That if you give it milk mixed with water, diluted with water, it will drink only the milk, leave out the water. So what's the idea? That he takes the essence and leaves out the dross. So that's the basic idea of Paramahansa. Why we use the word Paramahansa? Because that he is an illumined soul. Ramakrishna is an illumined soul who knows to take the essence of the thing and leave out the dross. As he used to say in Bengali, Gole male mal ache, golti chere malti nebe. This is very difficult to translate it into English. Golmal means chaotic, so a chaotic situation. In the chaos, in Golmal, there is mal, something essence is there. Gol means zero, nothing. Leave out the dross, leave out the unsubstantial thing, and take the essence. So that's the idea which Sri Ramakrishna's words also speak of. So take the essence, leave out all the dross. So, but for most of us, what we do, the Shastranuvartanam, just to keep ourselves engaged in the intricacies of the logic of the scripture. We never go to the practice. Constantly we use our rational mind to go on finding out the logic behind everything. We forget, after all, it is a matter of realization, not something, an intellectual gymnastic. As Swami Vivekananda, in our order, this term, intellectual gymnastics, is very much used. That just the way to keep our body fit, to do something which excels the ordinary human capacity, we resort to physical gymnastics. So similarly, there is something called mental gymnastics. Many of us resort to the study of the scripture just for that mental gymnastics. Our aim is not to get the essence of the scripture and get established in self-realization. So that's why he's saying, Shastranu Vartanam Tyaktva. Because we get lost in the intricacies of the logics and the words of the scripture. As in this Vivekachudamani, in the very initial verses, Bhagavad Pada Shankaracharya has already indicated that. Shabda Jalam Maharanyam Chitta Brahmana Karanam. The Shabda Jal, this network of these words, is like a dense forest. Just the way a traveler gets lost in the forest, there is a chance that once we enter into this network of words, the so-called scripture, we get lost into it. We forget the essence. We forget that we have to go out of it being illumined. So that's the thing is being indicated as Shastranu Vartanam Tyaktva. So these are the three basic things. We have to first relinquish, and then after knowing the essence of the scripture, we have to meditate on that intellectual conviction which I had developed, so that I can get rid of the superimposition which has dawned upon me, making me convinced because of that ignorance that I am this body-mind complex. To get rid of this superimposition, I have to first of all relinquish these three things. And in the next two verses, we'll find that Bhagavad Shankaracharya is actually reinstating the same idea in the next two verses. What he's saying, this 271st verse, Loka Vasanaya Jantoho, Shastra Vasanaya Apicha, Deha Vasanaya Gyanam, Yathavat na eva jayate. Yathavat na eva jayate. You can never have the proper self-realization. You can just have a hazy idea, but it cannot lead to a proper self-realization. Right? If you don't relinquish these three, Loka Vasanaya, Shastra Vasanaya, and Deha Vasanaya. So these three, unless you relinquish, you can never go to the proper realization. As Swami Vivekananda in his lectures, he says that most of us think by reading the scriptures that I have gained spiritual wisdom. And then he's saying we never gain spiritual wisdom by reading books. Just as in any other knowledge, knowledge means realization. Just when, if I describe you the taste of mango, but you have not tasted the mango, can you ever have the knowledge of mango? No. The realization, unless you experience it, unless we have tasted the mango, the words can never help us to understand the real meaning of mango. If I have just heard the words, I can describe the taste of mango. Others may feel I have tasted, but they are mere words which never speaks of proper realization. I am speaking something beyond which is not substantiated by realization. It may give others feeling that I have understood, but actually I have understood nothing. So it is just mere memorization of someone's word, and I'm just repeating it. It happens even in our academic education. In the universities, we will find the students, just to pass the examination, will be just copying the notes, just taking down the notes from the teacher, and just the same thing, almost like copying and pasting in the exam hall. They will just write the things which they have learned, and they pass the examination. It's not only that we thought it's most probably in some of the countries like in India that this rot culture is there. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. That's why in one of the educational journals in one American university, Swami Ranganathanji used to quote that quite often, that a very nice definition, a very funny definition of education was coined. What's that? That education is a mysterious process. That education is a mysterious process where the notes enter from the notebook of the teacher to the notebook of the student without entering the head of either. So that's the process of education we are speaking of. That. So this type of this rot culture, that never gives us the proper understanding. So here the word yathavat na eva jayate, jnanam yathavat na eva jayate. You don't get the proper knowledge. It's just like uttering the same words which you have heard from your guru without realizing it. So unless you relinquish these three things, and dive deep into your spiritual practice, which Bhagavad Shankaracharya will be speaking of in the subsequent verses, you can never have the proper knowledge. As Sri Ramakrishna in the Gospel gives a very nice example. He says that just having the knowledge of Atman, of Brahman, by reading the scriptures is just like hearing the noise of market from a distance. It is just a humming noise. A humming noise is coming when you are from a distance. You never know what the people are shouting there. Only when you go near the market, when you're in the market, then you know that what the bargaining going on, what's the price they're asking for, what the customer is bargaining for. All those things clearly you hear when you're in the market. But from a distance, it is just a humming noise. So the knowledge of the scriptures is just like that humming noise, unless you have gone to that realization. You have gone to the market. You know what the Atman is. That is a matter of a self-realization. So that's the meaning of this word, jnanam yathavat naiva jayate. You can never have the proper knowledge. And then in the 272nd verse, the same idea again is instated strongly. What is saying? Sansara karagriha moksha micho अयोमयं पाद निबंध श्रृंखलम वदन्ति तत्ज्ञा पटु वासनात्रयं यह अस्मात् विमुक्तः समुपैति मुक्तिम. This vasanatraya, the three types of desires, as has been spoken of in this preceding two verses. This vasanatraya, this loka vasana, shastra vasana, deha vasana. So these three, unless we have relinquished, then we are as if samsara karagriha, we are in the prison house of this samsara. And that ayomayam pada nibandha srinka, not only that we are just in the prison house, our feet are enchained with a strong iron chain. This pada nibandha srinkalam, ayomayam means that iron, the srinkala, which is made of iron. It is a very strong chain. With that, your feet is as if enchained, and you are imprisoned in the karagriha, in this jail, in this prison of samsara, of this so-called worldly existence. So unless you have relinquished these three, that is your condition. So he who is free from them, they only can attain liberation. So yah asmat vimukta, the one who is freed from them, they only can samupaiti muktim, can think of liberation. So now the question is, but how we can overcome these desires? It has been stated that we have to get rid of these desires, but how to overcome them? So as in the gospel, we will find again and again Sri Ramakrishna is saying, the only way you can get rid of West is to go towards East. You cannot push the West. We cannot get rid of anything by forcefully. We will find that in this life, this is a big paradox. The thing which we try to relinquish, that enchains us more strongly, that binds us more strongly. Why? That's the paradox. Because the thing which I am constantly contemplating, that I have to get rid of it, my mind is constantly culturing that. I cannot get rid of that idea. And that's what is in your mind, that's the thing which totally overshadows your personality. So you are constantly saying, I have to get rid of it, and that binds you more strongly. So even in modern psychology, they say that if you have to get rid of any addiction, you have to develop some hobby, some habit which is sublime. By keeping your mind engaged in that, this thing automatically falls off. So that's the only way. By just saying that you relinquish these three things, and because I say I have to relinquish, I can never relinquish. So what's the way out? So that's being indicated in the next verse. That swatman neva sadha sthitva mano nashyati yoginah vasananam kshayascha ata swadhyasa apanayam kuru. So here also exactly the thing has not been said. They say that first we have to as if kill the mind. The mind has to die. Swatman neva sada sthitva mana nashyati yogina. Mana nashyati, moner nash. That in Swami Vivekananda, in one of his lectures, has indicated that many being frustrated by life commit suicide. But it actually leads in more horrible existence, because if you How it got muted, I don't know. I think, yeah, now it's okay. So this is the thing which is being indicated, that you have to kill the mind. That mano nashyati yoginah. The mind has to be killed. So the yogi's mind dies being constantly fixed on his self. Swatma, swatma neva. So that's the thing. Just by constantly contemplating on the things which I have to relinquish, I can never relinquish them. I have to get, and again, I cannot relinquish those desires one by one. There are innumerable desires in my mind. So, what's the way out? If I can destroy the ego on which the entire mind is, the existence of the mind is dependent. So, unless this ego is killed, the mind, we cannot get rid of the mind. And once that ego is got rid of, the mind is got rid of, all the desires will fall off all at once. So that's why the relinquishment of all those things is by contemplating on the self. By contemplating on the self, I can get rid of all the desires, and then automatically those three falls off, and it takes me to that realization. So when that realization happens, then what happens? Swadhyasa apanayam kuru. Again, that's the same thing they're saying. This superimposition that I am the body-mind complex, that falls off. I get rid of that. So this idea will be explained in the succeeding verses, just to get an idea that how the meditation on the self can help me to get rid of all the desires. That we give that example again and again, that our personality is just like a wheel which has a hub and a lot of spikes, innumerable spikes. The hub is the ego, the idea that I am this body-mind complex. And all our likes and dislikes are like the spikes. Whenever I say, I like this, I dislike this, I'm afraid of this. So all those likes, dislikes are hooked with what? The sense of I. It is I who like this, I who dislike this, isn't it? So all the samskaras are hooked at I. So now when you start your contemplation on the self, you create a new vritti in your mind. That is called Ishta vritti, or the Brahmakara vritti. What's that? That I am the Atman, I am the Brahman, I'm not this body-mind complex. I am the self. So this also is a vritti. This also is a part of the mind. It's not that the moment I say I am Brahman, I become one with Brahman. It is also a vritti created in the mind. But this vritti, what it is doing, it has the capacity to get rid of all the vrittis. How? Because it's a pratipaksha bhavana. It's when I say aham brahmasmi, it is a contending thought for all the thoughts associated with ego. When I say aham brahmasmi, or when I say I am the Atman, what is the idea? That I am not this body-mind complex. This idea of body-mind complex, my identity with the body-mind complex has created the ego, and with that ego, all the desires are all associated. So when I am asserting again and again, that I am not the body-mind complex, I am the self, I am as if hammering on that ego. Now, as we told, that ego is the hub on which all the spikes are linked. If I just break one of the spike, the wheel is still intact. Why? Because other spikes are there to support the wheel. But if I get rid of the hub, all the spikes will collapse altogether, because they are all supported by that. The entire texture falls off. The entire texture falls off. So that's the idea, that when you're contemplating on the self, you're as if constantly hammering on the ego, with which all your samskaras are joined or hooked. And when you succeed in getting rid of the ego by persistent thought, repetitive thought, that I am not this body-mind complex, I am the Atman, I am the self, this Brahmakara vritti, Ishtakara vritti, when it becomes very intense, one-pointed, it can get rid of the ego and taking you to that Swatmanubhuti. The entire texture of the mind falls off. It is the mind which is creating the delusion of this world of name and form. The conscious principle coming in association with the mind projects this universe. The moment the mind collapses, you become one with the self. And that leads to that swatmanubhuti. So then that you get established in yourself. And when that happens, all the three vasanas automatically falls off. Because with the ego, with the mind, all these vasanas were conjoined. When you get rid of this ego, the mind, all the desires, at a once they all fall off. So that's the idea which is being indicated in this 277th verse. So now how to keep the mind constantly fixed on self? So for that, the 278th verse, what it is saying? Tamo dvabhyang rajah sattvat sattvang shuddhena nashyati tasmat sattvam avashtabhya swadhyasa apanayam guru. The three gunas. So we won't go to the details because that will take us out of the context. Just for understanding the sadhana, the spiritual practice, which has been indicated here, let us try to understand sattva rajatama in context of our spiritual practice. That when I am trying to meditate, I'm trying to keep my mind on the ishta vritti, then I will find what are the two hindrances. There are two main hindrances. That till now, I have never tried to keep my mind calm. It was so distracted, so restless. It never knew rest. It never knew rest. So for the first time, most probably you have succeeded to keep the mind a bit in one thought. With repetitive attempt, you have succeeded. And immediately you will find what happens. We experience, all of us. The moment I sit for meditation, at the beginning, it was so restless, I couldn't calm it down. And then with a lot of effort, I could calm it down. But I will find my mind is no more alert. It has got into a state of this dullness. You get into a state of drowsiness. So now you will understand that our meditation, what it is like, it is not Vishuddha Sattva, pure Sattva. It is not pure Sattva. Most probably to a certain extent, Sattva Guna has developed. What is the Sattva Guna? That when I keep my mind in one thought, then the tranquility comes. The mind is alert but calm. Generally, when the mind is calm, it goes to the state of torpidity. It is not torpidity. It is not dull. It is alert, but it is not dull. It is calm, but it is not dull. So for most of us, as a novice, when I'm trying to meditate, either the mind is restless, that is full of rajas, or it has gone to a state of torpidity. It is tamas. So the sattva is getting mixed with that. I'm trying my best. Maybe for a little while I got the meditation and then it got into a state of drowsiness. Or I'm not going to the state of meditativeness at all. It is restless. So this raja and tama is constantly disturbing me. It is not allowing my mind to keep in one thought. So at the beginning, what has to be done? If I say sit down for meditation, it's impossible. The one who is extremely tamasic, for him, rajas is very important. To a certain extent, this activity is required. So that's why what he's saying, tamo dvabhyang rajah sattvat. The tamas has to be destroyed by sattva and rajas. Most probably in the morning, early in the morning hours, if I try to sit down and meditate, I find I go to the state of drowsiness. Then how, with the help of sattva and rajas, you can get rid of tamas? There's something called walking meditation. So you're active. At the same time, you're trying to keep your mind in one thought. So just to give an idea, we are giving these specific examples. So with the help of sattva and rajas, get rid of tamas. Now, when I have to a certain extent succeeded, then to get rid of that rajas, I now use that sattva. Now I sit down and meditate, and all the restlessness I try to get rid of. That state of tamas I have already got rid of by my persistent practice. Now this restlessness also I try to get rid of. So then a state comes that even when I sit down for meditation, my mind was restless, it becomes calm, but at the same time, it is not going into a state of this dullness or drowsiness. Many of us throughout our life think that the state of drowsiness is a state of bliss. And many will be saying that deep sleep is the state of samadhi. In our organization, that jokingly we all say that is called Kumbhakarna Darshana. It is just like Kumbhakarna is going to the state of sleep. It is Kumbhakarna Darshana, the philosophy of Kumbhakarna. There's a state of bliss. It's never. The real state of bliss is something you are very much aware, but your mind is calm. So that's the state of Vishuddha Sattva. So by persistent practice, what has happened? Now you are thinking of yourself that aham brahmasmi. It has created a brahmakara vritti. All the restlessness has fallen off. And at the same time, it is not taking you to the state of drowsiness. You are alert with that single vritti, ishta vritti, brahmakara vritti. Your mind is meditating. This will help you to at last get rid of this. That meditation, that to realize the self, it has been spoken of. It needs meditation. What type of meditation? It's not just the meditation as a novice which we are doing. That won't help. It has to at last get refined. All the dross, just the way the ore has to be refined. To get rid of all the dross, to get the pure gold, it has to be smelted. So similarly here, this refining has to be done. All the dross has to fall off in the form of tamas and rajas. And then that single vritti, it becomes like a laser. This laser light has the capacity to just pierce through anything. So here you have created a laser in the name of Brahmakara vritti, which can get rid of the ignorance. And that's the thing that's been mentioning, that with that strong laser vritti, Brahmakara vritti, swadhyasa apanayankur, get rid of the superimposition which has dawned upon you in the form of ignorance. So get rid of it. So Vishuddha Sattva, that's the thing which has been spoken of in this verse. Your meditation has to go to that state. Now, how to generate that? This Akhanda Brahmakara vritti. So in the 280th verse, it is being speaking of that how that Brahmakara vritti has to be created by constantly contemplating that. Till now we have spoken that your mind has to be in that one thought. But what's that thought actually? Is it on some worldly object? That I am just thinking of, I like donut, so let me meditate on donut and I will get rid of all the vrittis. No. So what's the content of your meditation? So that's being indicated in the 28th verse. Na ahang jiva varang brahma iti atat vyavritti purvakam vasana vegatah prapta swadhyasa apanayan kuru. So this, I am not the individual soul, but the Supreme Brahman. Na ahang jivaha parang brahma iti etat vyavritti. Eliminating thus all that is not self. You're eliminating by this thought. I'm not this body, not this mind, not this, all the feelings, emotions. I'm not this panchakosha. I'm beyond this. This in the Nirvana Shatakam you will find all the negations that has to be done. How nicely in the 6 stanzas it has been spoken of. In the 5 stanzas actually. In the last stanza there's an assertion. After negating that what I am not, all those superimpositions, at last they say, I am the self. In the last stanza. So this aham nirvikalpa, nirakara rupa, that's the last verse. So that's the thing, that you have to assert that you are the Brahman and you are not all the superimpositions in the form of body-mind complex. And this has to be, do this, and by this, you have to get rid of all the momentum of the past impressions which has come through. So this Vyavriti Purvakam, all this because of ignorance for births together, I was developing samskaras, developing these mental modules, which speaks of my association with the ego. So that has to, Vyavriti Purvakam means I have to get rid of all this which I have acquired previously, Purvakam, Vyavritti. So Vritti means this thought, Vyavritti means by constant repetition. So many times I have repeated the same thing, Vyavritti, again and again, again and again, again and again. It went on for lives together. So now I have realized that I have to get rid of that. So this is a very deep-rooted samskara. To get rid of this deep-rooted samskara, I have to create a contending, deep, strong thought that I am the Brahman. So this is the thing that should be the content of your meditation. It's not meditation on any worldly object. It speaks of something which is associated with the spiritual dimension of our existence. It has nothing to do with this world. So na aham jiva param brahma iti atat vyavritti purvakam vasana vegata prapta swadhyasa apanayam. So eliminating this, that is not the self. So away with this superimposition which has come through the momentum of the past, this vasana vega, from where it has came? Because of the vyavritti purvakam. Again and again you have repeated the same thing. It has created a deep groove in your mind, and that has given that strength to all the samskaras. Vasana vega. These words, just see how specifically, strongly these words have been used. This tremendous momentum all the vasanas have. But it can be got rid of. We need not think that this is something impossible. This vasana vega can be contended by this meditation that you are the Brahman, not the Jiva. By this constant repetition, and that repetition should lead to that what has been spoken of in the previous verse, this Vishuddha Sattva Brahmakara Vritti. That it is keeping you alert, it's not distracting you again to the thoughts of world, and it is again not taking you to the state of drowsiness. With that, the laser you have created, with that you can get rid of the Vasana Vega, which you have acquired through various previous births in the form of repeated thoughts, Vyavritti, Purvakam. You get rid of that, and that alone can help you. This prapta, this swadhyasa apanayam, the superimposition which has dawned upon you, you can get rid of that only by that. So just see this, how he's exerting that there is a way out of this world of Maya, of ignorance. 281st verse, what he's saying? Now where the script, what the importance of the scripture lies. Previously it has been mentioned, it is not for intellectual jargon, but it do has an importance. What is that? Sruti Yukti Swanubhutya. So this is mentioned in the 281st verse, that we hear of Sravana, Manana, Nididhyasana. That's been spoken of here. Srutya Yuktya Swanubhutya Gyatva Sarvatyam Atmanaha Kvachit Abhasatah Prapta Swadhyasa Apanayam Kuru. So realizing yourself as the self by means of scripture, Srutya, the scripture means Shruti, that in the olden days nothing was written. The Vedas, the Guru has memorized it by hearing it from his Guru, and he has contemplated on it. When, like even in our day-to-day ordinary academic knowledge, that Shraddha is very important, faith. When I hear for the first time the intricacies of all the academic knowledge, if at the very beginning, when I don't understand, I say it is all useless, it has no meaning, all the rubbish things it's and throw it out, I can never learn. First, that Shraddha has to be there. That it, yes, those in the universities have done research, the scientists of for generations, what they have discovered, that is genuine, that is true. Humbly I accept I do not have that intellectual understanding at present. Let me try to understand. At the very beginning, if I deny that it is not true, I can never learn. I accept it is true, but humbly I accept I don't have the proper understanding. So I go on again and again contemplating on it. That's the way. At last, all my doubts clear off, and then I become intellectually convinced. That's why this intellectual conviction is very much important. We will find that in Belur Math, when Swami Vivekananda came back from the West, he used to conduct these classes on Upanishads, the scriptures. And sometimes the other direct disciples, like Swami Premananda, they had a firm belief that the practice is more important. And it's the fact that even in these previous verses we have seen that only just studying the scripture is of no use. You have to meditate and go to the realization. So one day, Swamiji heard that some of the direct disciples are not very happy about this too much study of the scriptures. But Swamiji made it a point that all should study scripture. He used to take the classes. And when he heard that there is some, that sort of censoring is going on, some sort of there's opposing opinion is there, that this too much of study of scriptures, what's the utility of it? Swamiji himself asks this question, that many are asking, that what's the utility of studying the scriptures? That you have to, after all, give importance to the practice. Then what's the utility of the study of the scriptures? So he himself asks the question to these all novices. That many are asking you, what's the what's the utility of studying scriptures? And you may also feel discouraged that why all this study? We need to meditate more. We have to spend more time in meditation. But I am taking the class on the scriptures. What's the utility of it? Swamiji himself asked. So all the brahmacharis were silent. They couldn't reply. And then Swamiji himself gave the reply. He said, the utility is, it only helps in one thing. And the words of Swamiji is to get rid of the cobwebs of the mind. In our mind, just the way the spider creates a cobweb. So in our mind, all these cobwebs has been created because of the superimposition, swadhyasa. To remove that, to get an intellectual understanding, to get an intellectual conviction. Unless you have an intellectual conviction, how will you get motivated to meditation? If I don't know why I am meditating, that if I am not very sure about the idea that I am the Atman, I am the Brahman, then it just becomes like an hypnotization. I am meditating on something which will help me to just get rid of the world suffering by hypnotizing myself by thinking I'm the Atman. If I don't have a clear idea, it instead of de-hypnotization, it becomes a process of hypnotization. So first have a clear idea. Let all the doubts follow off. Be intellectually convinced that I am the self. But again, intellectual conviction is not enough. Even an ordinary person, just see the doctors in the hospital, constantly they're seeing the death. Every day, disease, death. Have they renounced the world? They realize that life is ephemeral. So intellectually, they're convinced life is ephemeral. No one has to say them. Constantly they say that. But does it lead to the renunciation? No. So this internalization is something very, very important. Just mere intellectual conviction won't help. Sometimes we feel it helps. As after reading Vedanta, sometimes we feel very uplifted. Oh, after all, I'm the Atman, I'm the Brahman. This world has nothing to do with my real existence. I think when I keep the book, I just close the book, I think, oh, this is the idea, now will save me, will help me to navigate through the problems of life. I keep the book, start interacting with the world, and then I find in no time I have lost. The world affects me. I am getting disturbed. So it's mere intellectual conviction won't help unless it goes to the realization. Unless you have realized, as Swamiji used to say, the story of a stag. That what's our condition like? A stag, a male deer with muscular limbs, was one day standing just on the edge of a reservoir, and he was seeing its own reflection, seeing the strong limbs, the muscles. It was bragging. There was a fawn, a young deer standing nearby. It was just bragging. Just see how muscular I am. My limbs are so strong. How strong I am. And then suddenly the stag heard the barking of a dog. And this deer started running frantically. It started running. And the fawn also ran after it. It followed. After a long distance, this stag, being assured that most probably the dog is nowhere near, it stopped, but it was gasping because it had to run such a long distance. And now the fawn was surprised. He says, just now you were so confident about your strength. You were saying that your muscles, your limbs are so muscular, and you were so confident about your strength. What happened? What made you so much frightened, so scared? And then the stag replied, I don't know what happens to my confidence the moment I hear the barking of a dog. So that's what happens with us, with all our intellectual conviction of the knowledge of Vedanta. At last, we find that when we are facing the challenges of life, it is not helping us. The moment we hear the bark of the dog, all our confidence has gone. So that's why this Sravana, after hearing the Shruti, after hearing the scriptures, immediately I will find a lot of doubts are there. I have to cogitate. Some intellectual gymnastics is required at the beginning, just to clear the doubts. And then I have an intellectual conviction. Yeah, now I am sure that I am the self. With all this reasoning, I have come to this conclusion. And now comes the real thing, nididhyasana, meditation on your intellectual conviction till it takes you to the realization. Then only the superimposition on you will fall off. Otherwise, mere intellectual conviction won't help. And that's being indicated. Srutya yuktya, the Shruti. After hearing, yuktya, use your reasoning. But then the swanubhutya, that just yukti with yukti, when you get an intellectual conviction, that is not sufficient. It should take you to that realization, that nididhyasa, swanubhutya, gyatya, gyatva sarvatyam atmana. Then only you realize that you are not this localized consciousness. That's sarvatyam. The real you is Brahman, is Brihat. It is something beyond this locality. It is non-local. It is something which is beyond time and space. It permeates the entire existence. That's what is meant by sarvatyam. That's why the Brahma, the word Brahma came from Brih, dhatu, Brihat. I think I am such a small being localized here. But when I realize myself, I find I am bigger than the biggest. This Mahato Mahya, that you are the Brahma. You're not this just limited body-mind complex. So that's the idea of this Sarvatyam Atmana. This Sarvatyam Atman is Brahmana. The Atman, the idea of Atman is localized, but that becomes Sarvatmyam, all pervading. So when you realize that, that Anubhuti can come only through the Dhyasana. When the ego falls off, and then it takes you to that realization that of the Brahman, of this Sarvatyam Atman, this Kvachit Abhasata Prapta. When do away with this supreme, even when a trace of it remains, know it for certain. That even, that's why we in the last class also we were indicating that desires cannot be get rid of little by little, or it has to go in totality. In all the desires has to fall off. So that's why it is indicated as Kvachit Abhasata, even little trace shouldn't remain. Everything, this all the desires, even if a little trace of desire is there, again we have to come back to this world of name and form. As Ramakrishna used to give a very nice example, he used to say that, that a thread has many fibers, many fibers. If even a single fiber is disoriented, it will not go through the eye of the needle. It will not pass through the eye of the needle. I have to moisten it. All the fibers I have to moisten and make them one-pointed. Then only the thread, all the fibers have been made one-pointed, then the thread can pass through the eye of the needle. So all these fibers speaks of the innumerable desires. Unless they have been made one-pointed by the Ishtabhritti, have been moistened by the Ishtabhritti and made it one-pointed, it can never pass through the eye of the needle. It can never take you to the realization. That's the idea. So this is the thing. That even a trace of desire is there, know it for certain, there cannot be realization. And unless the ego has fallen off, consciously I am trying to get rid of desires and I may feel confident. Oh, I had a tremendous desire for name, fame, I have got rid of. You don't know. There are so many desires still hiding in your mind. And as long as they are there, you cannot get rid of this superimposition. Impossible. All the desires has to fall off. How is it possible? Not by getting rid of them one by one. By getting rid of this idea that I am this limited body-mind complex, by constant meditation, I have to hammer off the ego. Then all the desires falls up all at once. Just this study, this goes on, but sometimes some examples makes it a bit more interesting. Today's discussion, I will just end with a very funny anecdote. It's how much true, I don't know. It's an anecdote, very funny. It's something related to the life of Kabir and his guru Ramdas. Kabir's guru was Ramananda. Ramananda was Kabir's guru. Now, Ramananda is a realized soul. He had a lot of following. Kabir was also one of them. And just when his death was approaching, he was nearing, in India, the tropical climate, just even in the evening hours, there's outdoors is very pleasant. So the disciple finding him is his Ramananda is in his deathbed. They took him out in the twilight hours in the evening. Outside, the cool breeze was blowing. So they took him out on a cot, and on the shade of a mango tree, he was kept. He was lying there. And Ramananda was lying there. He knew well, after all, he was a spiritually highly evolved soul. So he is something predicted. What's the prediction? That when I die, I will of course go to heaven. And the moment I go to the heaven, you will hear the ringing of the bells from the heaven. Now, within a few hours, he did die because he was just nearing his death. But no one could hear any ringing of the bells. They were just waiting for the ringing of the bells from the skies to be heard. They could hear nothing. So they were perplexed. They thought most probably in the last moment of his life, as it happens with most of us, he was in a state of delirium. That's why he was speaking something. He was just babbling something nonsense. It happens. Most probably he also was just in a state of delirium. Now, Kabir was a staunch believer. He had tremendous faith on his guru. He said, no, he's a very highly evolved soul. How can he be in a state of delirium at the time of death? Actually, it's a different thing. A subtle desire arose in his mind. Well, what is that? Well, the mango season was almost over. Only one mango, ripened mango, was hanging just on the tree below which Ramananda was lying. And the last moment, seeing that ripened mango, the desire came to taste it. And so he couldn't go to heaven. The desire, one desire means you cannot go to heaven. So it's a very funny anecdote. And now others were very much annoyed with Kabir. How you have to prove it? That our guru in the last moment, you are slandering our guru. In the last moment, he had the desire. You have to prove it. Well, I will prove it. Now Kabir got up on the tree, climbed the tree, got that mango, brought it down, and asked for a knife. With the knife, he cut the mango. And all could see a small insect inside. Kabir took the insect in his hand, and between his two fingers, he kept it and pressed it. So the insect naturally died. He pressed it, and immediately they could hear the ringing of the bells in the sky. So that one desire was there to taste the mango. So I still remember in Belur Math when I was there, I was a brahmachari in the training center, and I was looking after the library. And one of the Swamis wanted a book from the library. And I being the librarian, he told, can you just after the lunch, that's the time when we brahmacharis take rest. He told, can you forego your rest and just search that book for me? I'm just trying to get it for quite long. I'll, okay, Maharaj, please, of course. So along with the Maharaj, I came and then I got the book. I gave it to him, and then he told this story to me. And after saying this story, now that Swami was sometimes apparently appeared to be short-tempered. He will get angry. So we were all scared of him. We never used to contradict him. So after saying this story, he was very seriously, he asked me, do you believe it to be true? So I thought if I said no, at that time really I never believed. Can this be a truth story? So, but just we knew that he apparently appears to be very short-tempered person. Immediately he may start scolding me and all those things. So I told him, yes, Maharaj, I believe. And the next sentence he told was very interesting. Yes, in the Gospel, Sri Ramakrishna says, in this world, tar jagote shobi shambhav. Never think anything is impossible. Tar jagote shobi shambhav. So that's what, and it was a revelation, very nicely he told, and that everything is possible. We should never think that with my limited mind, I understand as rational, that's the only world. There is so many layers of truth beyond even my understanding. Ei jagote shobi sattva, shobi shambhav, tar jagote, he can do anything. So that's the story. But the real, that why we told that funny story, just to have that idea that even if you have a little trace of desire, there cannot be any liberation. Kvachit abhasata prapta. That also has to go off. How is it possible? Not by getting rid of the desires one by one. With this Vishuddha Sattva, Akhanda Brahmakara Vritti, that when with that help of Sattva, which is pure, no Rajas, no Tamas, you have created that laser-like Akhanda Brahmakara Vritti, with that you have got rid of your ego, and that helps you to get rid of all your vasanas in one go and without keeping any trace left. And that helps you to get rid of this self-imposed superimposition. So that's the idea. So then the next verse, how to do this, only the cessation of the desire is possible only by getting rid of the ego. Still now, we'll find that the word ego which we are using, Bhagavad Pada Shankaracharya himself have not used till now. But to understand, we have used the word ego, that which he will be speaking of in the next verse, which we will again take up in the next class, the 284th verse. This ahang bhavasya dehe asmin, where he comes to that idea. This ahang bhavasya dehe asmin nishesha vilayavadi, that unless you get rid of it in totality, nishesha, savdhanena yuktatma swadhyasa apanayan kuru. So this verse at last comes to that idea of obliterating of the ego. So which we will take up again in the next class. So with this, we stop our discussion today. Thank you all. Namaskar.